Let me know when we're good to go.
We are good to go.
All right. Call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, 1 second. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right. And so I have a statement to read, which I'll pull up in a second. All right. Consistent with the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, and Regulation 940, the CMR 29.10, which allows for remote participation in certain circumstances under the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law regulations. The Mendon-Upton Regional School Committee will be conducting this meeting remotely. In this particular case, all 6 members of the committee are particularly participating remotely and virtually through video conferencing. This is consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 10th, 2020, which eased the requirements of having a meeting in a physical space open to the public and having a quorum of the committee physically present. Any and all votes will be conducted by roll call votes. Per usual, this meeting will also be live streamed and recorded. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve tonight's agenda, please?
May I make a motion to table the approval of the executive session minutes for November 16th?
Yes. Motion.
Second.
Second, yeah. So we need to vote by roll call.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Lee Martin, aye.
Phil DeZetter, aye.
Carrie Lawrence, aye.
Vicky Ludwigson, aye. So we will table the approval of the executive session minutes.
And with that, I would like to motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
And vote by roll call.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Lee Martin, aye.
Phil DeZetter, aye.
Carrie Lawrence, aye.
Vicky Ludwigson, aye. And next, motion to approve the open session minutes of November 16th, 2020.
Motion to approve the open session minutes of November 16th, 2020.
Second.
Vote by roll call.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Lee Martin, aye.
Phil DeZetter, aye.
Carrie Lawrence, aye.
Vicky Ludwigson, aye. So those minutes are approved. Next up, we have student comments. Welcome, Owen.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. It means a lot to me. All right. Before I share what's been happening at Nipmuc, I'd first like to say that I hope you all had a wonderful and safe Thanksgiving. All right, to start off, parent-teacher conferences are tomorrow, and we have made some big changes this year. Conferences will be held over Zoom, with parents meeting one-on-one with teachers in 10-minute meetings. In addition to being able to talk with teachers this year, parents will also be given the opportunity to meet with Nipmuc's counselors should they have any questions they need answered. The pandemic has made it challenging to offer winter sports, but Nipmuc is thankful that our athletic department has found a way to offer winter sports despite the pandemic. And 1 second, my notes have disappeared. Oh, that's not good. All right. So despite the challenges that we have faced this year, we are able to offer alpine skiing, boys and girls soccer. What is going on with
I think that's basketball, Owen.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Don't know what's going on with my notes right. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. Sheesh. We are thankful that our athletic department has found a way to keep basketball, alpine skiing, hockey, and swimming up and running. Things might look different for Nipmuc sports this year, but we are all looking forward to seeing our teams play. I'm especially excited to share with you all the work that our National Honor Society members are doing on the behalf of senior citizens living within our community. Following the power outage that occurred last October, students within the community realized that there was a great deal of need for supplies like batteries, phone chargers, and flashlights for our senior citizens to make sure that they are prepared for any sort of power outage that might happen in the future. Our National Honor Society students are collecting batteries, flashlights, phone chargers, portable chargers, and more for senior citizens. Supplies can be dropped off in the blue bin at the entrance of Nipmuc, just in case anybody wants to pitch in and help out. In addition to that, our music boosters are teaming up with Galliford's Restaurant at Southwick Zoo in Mendon this Wednesday, December 9th, for anybody that either eats in or orders takeout and mentions the MURSD music boosters. Galliford's will donate 15% of all the proceeds. It is this Wednesday from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And I recommend the steak, by the way. It is fantastic. Last time I went there, I was able to eat a steak and look at the flamingos, which, come on, what beats that? Picture retake days are next week on Monday, December 14th and Thursday, December 17th, to be able to accommodate both cohorts. We also have an afternoon time slot available on Thursday for all students that are standalone remote to be able to come in and have their pictures taken as well. Seniors are starting to receive college acceptances, and we are all looking forward to seeing the pennants collect in the lobby soon. It's been a challenging finish, but I know that our seniors are happy to see our resiliency pay off. Again, thank you very much for inviting me to speak tonight, and I hope that you all have a wonderful holiday season.
Oh, and I just want to comment, you do a terrific job. I look forward to your report every week. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It means a lot.
Yes, thank you, Owen. Good example of resilience right there. Right. Next up, we have our superintendent's comments.
All right, thank you, Vicki. Good evening, everybody. First off on the agenda is just something that I want to share with you that we just got launched. I'm going to do a quick screen share, but it's the idea of having a district-wide, excuse me, let me just go to screen share again. Sorry about that. A district-wide COVID-19 dashboard. Okay. Hold on one second. Okay, there we go. So the idea behind this, and I've gotten a lot of inquiries regarding it, is how are we using both the town transmission data and also what's happening within the school district to kind of make decisions about models, instructional models, and so on. As you all know, we're experiencing across the state, within our communities, and obviously nationwide, a very, very strong spike right now in cases. So we're probably going to add some more data to this, but this is just kind of a start where we will have the week-to-week town transmission data, as you know, by the color codes. Unfortunately, over the last 2 weeks, we've been in the red, and just kind of a snapshot of how many cases we've had this week, how many we've had in the last 14 days. You know, relative to a lot of districts, you know, we're in a place where overall we've had 20 cases between students and staff within our district. Last week by far was the busiest that we've been as far as, you know, starting to see some of that post-Thanksgiving spike. But I do think, again, as we've discussed in previous meetings, as unfortunate as it is to have cases, we can also say that there's been zero transmission within the schools from what we've been able to ascertain from contact tracing, that all of the cases, and I think we're up to 20 in total since we've had in-person instruction, have been brought in from the outside. I do think it's also significant to note that what could really affect us within our district is the issue of quarantining. And it really comes down to there's kind of three buckets where people could be in quarantine because they've been determined to be a close contact of somebody who's confirmed or potentially confirmed, or they are in the process of waiting for the results of a COVID-19 test, or as we saw with Thanksgiving and around Thanksgiving, they have to go in quarantine due to the state's travel orders. So on this, we've also created on this dashboard a breakdown by school and by week of both students and staff, how many positive cases we've had, and then how many are in quarantine. And then something else that we're also going to track on a daily basis is our student and staff attendance as far as the percentage rate from day to day during our 4 days of in-person instruction. I will also put some qualifiers on this, just so people know, without having the background of the data. We typically, in a normal non-COVID year, our average attendance rate pretty much across all 4 schools is at least 95%. A lot of times it's pushing more like 97, 98% on a daily basis. And our staff attendance is usually right around that mark as well. So that's a start. I've had people say, what are some of the tangible data markers that you would be using to make the call to go to full remote? I think we're starting to see in some districts, it comes down to, as I said before, the issue of quarantining. For example, I know Bellingham High School has had at least a couple instances of, a high number of staff members going into quarantine to the point where it's just not very sustainable to keep in-person instruction, at least for a certain period of time. Other communities, unfortunately, I've had some communication with Ted Friend, who's the superintendent of Sutton. Sutton has an explosion right now. For a small town, they right now have 115 active cases. So as a result, they're going full remote, at least through the holidays. So I think it's more of a conversation, and I'm starting the conversation with our principals about, what is the critical number of tipping point. I think our staff deserves a lot of credit. Obviously they take their jobs very, very seriously, but their attendance by and large has been exemplary through this period. And you can always anticipate things come up, people get sick with other things not related to COVID, so people are always out. So again, this is something that, we're watching very, very carefully, and we're trying to keep the data current and be very open and transparent with it so that our families and our community and obviously our staff can note it as well. Does anybody have any questions about specifically about the dashboard?
No questions. I think it's this is very, very effective at helping us all communicate with each other about where the status is for the district. So thank you for this, Joe.
Thank you, Sean. Second thing, which is kind of antithetical, if that's the right term, is, and again, our goal has always been, what can we do to get more students in school and for in-person instruction? And it was we've talked about since the beginning. our highest priority has to be our younger students, because again, you can probably be a lot more effective with students through both synchronous and asynchronous online instruction at the middle school and high school level. And we've got real concerns about our youngest learners. So as the week progressed, we are going to prioritize our kindergarten and first grade learners, students rather. So we anticipate sending out surveys to our kindergarten and first grade parents. We're looking at some various creative options to bring them back. I know right now we are in a period that is super, super challenging, and some of the predictions are we're nowhere near the peak yet, unfortunately, of the infections. But I think in speaking to our leadership team, and specifically speaking to Jan Gallagher and Wendy Bell, our two principals, our mindset is, though we may not execute in the here and now in a short future, I think we've got to do our due diligence with regard to the planning piece, so that when we are ready to execute some type of structure for more in-person instruction, we're good to go. And some of the logistical planning and some of the work with the staff is done as well. So I share that information with you just for the simple reason, just knowing for our parents, particularly we're going to target first kindergarten and grade 1. We will be sending out some surveys to see where they are as far as their desires for their kids, and also to pitching some potential structures as well. Okay. Another just kind of housekeeping logistical type thing. I've received some inquiries from parents and staff members alike regarding snow days during this winter, kind of apropos after what we had Saturday as far as that storm. Kind of interesting, as you remember from last year, I know even though it seems like a long time ago, the commissioner had said that the ASL, or alternative structured learning days, were to be a thing of the past. And last school year was supposed to be the last of them. Obviously, you know, since we've been in this crisis for the last 9 months, people are pointing out, well, now that, you know, we're doing some type of remote learning, could that count in lieu of a makeup day? And the short answer is yes, the commissioner is permitting remote learning days to count in the event that we do have a snow day. So to be very, very clear, and I intend on communicating this out with our families, the idea is that if we were to have a snow day, say this month, while we were in the hybrid schedule, we would revert to our remote learning schedule, and our remote learning schedule for those students in the cohort that would have been coming to school for in-person instruction. So if you're in cohort A and it's a Monday or Tuesday, and I call a snow day, then what we would be looking at would be the remote learning schedule. So synchronous learning for those kids that day. The students in the other cohort, in this example, cohort B, would continue with their asynchronous remote learning day. Some folks have also pointed out to me, and I'm kind of in the camp of agreement, that perhaps calling a traditional snow day isn't such a bad thing after all. And, you know, it's kind of a hopeful, optimistic look at the situation. But in a scenario where by the late spring, we did have all kids back because of the progression of the virus and also vaccination and so on, that would be a full day back with our kids. Now, again, we've had the conversation many times about how optimal is a day like June 18th, June 19th. But as always, I think I'm going to try to weigh where we are in the school year, what the situation is, what the progression of the virus is in making those types of decisions. Okay, so I just share with that with you, you know, for information and also consideration as well. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, and you have in your packet the FY21 budget update. Jay, do you have any specific lines that you'd like to highlight or anything to that effect?
There's nothing that's really pressing right now. Everything's progressing the way it should, as far as I can tell. You want to talk about the other stuff too, or just the year-to-date expenditures?
I think what we could probably do is kind of segue into, not to take your role, Vicky, but the next item on the agenda kind of goes together, is the budget subcommittee. I just really, honestly, I put that as a placeholder. I will be getting a doodle poll out to our budget subcommittee and our town representatives. I think we've got to, within the next week to week and a half, convene as a budget subcommittee, because development of the FY22 budget is rapidly coming upon us. So we've got to start that planning, even though, you know, we're cautiously optimistic that the state budget for FY21 will finally be finalized and signed by Governor Baker by December 15th is the word that I'm hearing now. So maybe, Jay, you can kind of, you know, talk a little bit about some of the documents that you shared.
Sure. So yeah, I shared with you a couple of different spreadsheets, one showing the changes in the budget from what was certified in May to what was certified, or what will be certified once we have a final budget. Not a huge dramatic change there. A little bit less in state aid than what we anticipated. Local aid's the same. The big change that I think is really helping us out is, if you remember, we talked about this a while ago, that we were not allowed, we had to use circuit breaker extraordinary relief from last year, which lowered out of district tuition, which then rolled into E&D, and we have to appropriate it back out to use it this year. So that's going to be an increase in the budget. It's not really an increase in that I didn't have those, I had those funds offset by the circuit breaker amount to start with. So we have that piece happening. We also have some school choice money that we can increase our appropriation based on the fact that we didn't really touch what we had last year after the closure. But in total, it looks like our budget's going to be up around 300 and some odd, 300 and I forget the total amount. I don't have that spreadsheet right in front of me. Actually, I do. What am I saying? Hang on one second here. Yeah, it's about 392,000 more than what was certified back in May. So that's a good thing, because that's going to help us out immensely. We've had a lot of expenses. I mean, the year to date looks fine right now, but we're only 5 months into the year. But we've had to hire a lot of staff to help cover places, and we spent a lot on, you know, maintenance and lots of other things like that. So that will certainly help. As far as the final budget, we're going to be looking at about a 3% increase, a little about 1.1 million over last year. The overwhelming majority of that money is coming from local contributions. Both towns are up about 1.1 million between the two, and that's based on Mendon passing its override, Upton being able to fund what we had requested. And then we have the E&D piece that's added into that as well. In general, our state aid is less than what we got in FY20 by about 15,000, 14,000. So we're not really making any progress on that end, and I'm not anticipating we're going to make much progress next year either. That's a brief summary of it all at this point. Hopefully at the next school committee meeting, we'll have a final budget we can certify where our budget's at, and we'll have to make that appropriation from E&D at that point as well. Is there any questions? Did I confuse everybody? Clearly not.
Well, yeah, yes.
Or everybody's afraid to ask.
No questions though, for me.
Just I always have some questions, Jay. Don't worry.
Yes.
So just so I'm clear, so the 392 is above what we certified, and then the certification was an increase essentially of the 600 or 700,000 from last year. Correct? Okay. And then the 10% reduction that you talk about and that you kind of alluded to, that we kind of brought back teachers and things like that in the memo is really, Joe, that was actually within the envelope of what was certified, correct?
Well, when we certified the budget in May, we did not put in a 10% reduction in Chapter 70. We level funded Chapter 70, but the layoffs were a result of potentially anticipating that 10% reduction, which the state and the legislator and the governor agreed to level fund us at a minimum, which is where we're going to be. And I want to say that they did that in maybe August, July or August. I forget exactly when. The months are all kind of a blur at this point.
Okay. No, I just wanted to make sure I understood kind of the points that were there, because in the sheet you sent out, the comparison is actually certified to the latest conference budget. I just want to make sure, because it is just so I understood kind of the math and the progression of the work.
Right. Well, there were two sheets. One was certification to the conference budget. That's right, that where we're at right now. And then there was generally a funding sheet that just showed last year's budget, this year's budget as we're anticipating this point. And that shows everything as is.
Oh, great. Thank you.
I'm pretty sure that the governor's, I don't think our numbers are going to change on the state side, no matter what the governor does. He has 10 days to vote after last Friday when the legislature sent it to him. I seriously doubt he's going to change anything that's going to have any major impact on us.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions from the committee about the budget? Hearing none, move on to new business.
Okay, the first thing I think under the agenda is an update regarding our district-wide learning adventure team. Again, kind of combining a couple different things that are in the agenda tonight. You'll notice in the packet under correspondence, you see a letter of thanks from the Upton Board of Selectmen, thanking the district on behalf of the town and the town's neighbor to neighbor program, and regarding a donation of fresh vegetables. And really a lot of this was completely spearheaded by the outstanding work that has been done with regard to our district learning adventures team, which has been led by NIPMUC's Career Community Innovations Coordinator, Leanne Miklavec, and also our co-principals at NIPMUC, John Clements and Marianne Moran. So I'm going to turn things over to them. I know they're really excited to kind of provide an update and talk about the successes that the team has had despite, as obviously the remarkable challenges of the pandemic. So I'll turn it over to Leanne and Marianne.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. As Dr. M said, my name is Leanne Miklavec, and I'm the Career Community and Innovations Coordinator over at NIPMUC. And I'm here tonight to share with you a little bit about our Learning Adventure team. So a key part of living our mission, empowering all learners to thrive, has come through our district's creation of a Portrait of a Learner, a statement of the skills, knowledge, and dispositions all of our students need to be successful in the world beyond our campuses. As we took our next steps to bring learning adventures to life in our district, we knew that we wanted proof of concept for all of our learners, from kindergarten to the most veteran faculty members. With that in mind, our district created the MURSD Learning Adventure Team, a collection of 8 elementary students, 8 middle level students, 8 high school students, and teachers across all grade levels to explore the future of learning in our district. Our team worked collaboratively to brainstorm, design, and create a learning adventure, a non-traditional, active, co-created, and hands-on learning experience that allowed our learners, kids and adults alike, to explore the portrait of a learner. Over several full-day sessions, our teams collaborated in team building, becoming experts on and ambassadors for the portrait of a learner, and designing powerful learning adventures to be carried out in the spring of 2020. Although the health crisis may have changed our adventure, Our team made amazing progress in charting the course of the future of learning in our schools. Together, we built the Leaving a Legacy learning adventure, in which our team collaboratively planted crops, cultivated a garden, and harvested vegetables, and donated the food to our local senior center. This is what our team members had to say about our adventure.
Hello, I am Don Hod. My name is Kate Tingler, and I'm part of the Learning Adventures. My name is Timothy Wright, and I am part of the Learning Adventure group. I'm Marina Barca Delgado, and I was part of the Learning Adventures team. Hi, I'm Anna. I'm part of Learning Adventure. I'm Patrick Scott, and I was part of the Learning Adventure. Hi, I'm Susie Barras, and I was part of the Learning Adventure team. My favorite part about Learning Adventures is meeting a bunch of new people. I loved meeting everyone, and doing the freeze frame was probably my favorite activity. Probably being able to work with other people that wanted to do the same thing as me, being able to help.
To see teachers that I met from elementary school and middle school come back into the Learning Adventures team.
When we did the different theme days, like the survival thing. I liked that we got to work as a team and go in different groups to discuss. It was fun for all of us to do, and it helped the community. Mainly because we wanted to give back to the community and for people who didn't have food.
It just helped me become a better person, I think.
I got to learn a lot about planting and helping my fellow classmates.
It taught me how to help people more, and it taught me how to garden.
I learned that it's good to help out because there's a lot of people in need.
I think our learning adventure was a success because we were able to create this amazing community garden and learn along the way. Yes, 100%. I think that it was a success because we were able to help the people in need and be able to help the other people around us.
We were successful in donating the food to the Upton Center.
We helped other people who didn't actually have foods and who needed more help. I think personally that we did a good job giving back to the community and for people who don't have the food in these times.
It makes myself become a better person knowing that doing these things can help the seniors' lives.
So as you heard from some of our students' reflections, they were really able to connect with one another, give back to our community, and really make an impact during such a difficult time in our world. And if you would like to check out our full video, please feel free to head on over to the website at www.MURSDportraitofalearner.weebly.com. And if you click on Final Reflections, our video will be right at the top of the page there. So I hope you enjoyed that small clip of our video, and thank you so much for having me here tonight.
Thanks, Leanne. That's wonderful to see. So next up, we have district goals.
Sure. Thank you, Vicki. Again, I'm going to do a screen share, and I just have kind of a summary. You should have in your packet the actual delineation of our district goals. And I want to just kind of go through them very briefly, but before I do, just kind of talk about where we are as far as our priorities and the rationale behind doing this. As you know, usually during that very first meeting in September, I bring forward our district action plans for a school year.
And it's always, I can tell you, it's always aligned with our current district strategic plan. However, this year is obviously very, very different. And obviously the concern was our reentry and developing all of the plans for both hybrid and remote learning and the tremendous amount of work that went into that. So therefore, that very important goal setting process really kind of unfortunately took a back seat. However, I do want to say that what I'm presenting to you tonight is kind of a streamlined version of what I would typically present. And it's a tacit acknowledgement that you know, our work is happening in the midst of this pandemic, and it's you know, obviously it's a very, very challenging context. Again, what comes through is the guiding principles for our district that we've had since this crisis began in March, where first and foremost, everyone's health and family and community come first. It's really about the relationships that we form with our students, with our family, and within the staff. And again, another key theme is supporting all learners, supporting both the academic and social emotional needs of our students, and also supporting the needs of our staff. So really that's the guiding principle. However, you know, we still are literally in the middle of a 5-year strategic plan, as all of you know, Inspire. And that really continues to kind of be our North Star. And it really, even in this challenging context, still drives our work. And we have not given up on a lot of the goals. So what is in the goals that we've delineated are, again, 4 streamlined goals. And each of them, as you can see in the document, as they typically do, have action steps and also metrics for success, or, you know, how are we going to know that we've actually accomplished? Usually when I'm giving this presentation, you also have before you kind of the traditional grid that also has person responsible and a distinct timeline and so on. Again, because we're dealing with something that's streamlined, and I think also the factor of time, where honestly it's at times it's very, very challenging to plan anything beyond day to day. Some of those pieces are absent from this document, and it's by intent. But again, really these 4 goals are really the crux of our work. I think they're representative of what our priorities are. So the first one is around supporting academic and social emotional needs of our students. The second one is improving instructional practices, particularly in the remote learning sphere. The third one is, you know, as I say every year, kind of the perpetual goal of improving communication. And then the fourth one is furthering the critical work, you know, as you just saw from our learning adventure team, you know, giving kids some really tangible project-based learning experiences, and that really kind of speak to our district portrait of a learner and the 6 competencies. What are we going to do to, despite these challenges, further that portrait of a learner? So the first goal is develop and implement strategies that support the academic and social emotional learning needs of both students and staff, with, again, special consideration of the challenges created by the current COVID-19 crisis. So you can see here, without getting into every single one that's in the document, but some of the key action steps, again, things that are key priorities, but also represent the work that is ongoing is first and foremost introduction of the multi-tiered system of supports, or MTSS model, which is kind of overtaking what we've been doing with regard to RTI, or response to intervention. We've talked a lot about being able to assess where our kids are with regard to social emotional learning, and again, the social emotional challenges of this era. So implementing an SEL assessment, and then also analyzing the results of those assessments and creating specific interventions. Again, also analyzing student health and wellness data, some of the markers that we've used in the past with regard to things like the Metro West Adolescent Health Survey, and also the signs of suicide surveys and so on, or screening tool rather. We also have a vision around creating a website, but also pushing this out to our families, of sharing various pragmatic SEL strategies. Also establishing, and I think Maureen talked about this during our last meeting, establishing a district-wide equity, diversity, and inclusion team. And then also publishing kind of a guide of very pragmatic action steps that teachers can use, both in person and also remote settings, of practices that promote social emotional wellness. Our second goal, again, speaks to cultivating instructional practices that meet the needs of students, but also promote deeper learning experiences across the curriculum, across all grade levels, across all content areas, again, with consideration of the challenges that we have in this health crisis. So some of those action steps, again, involves getting regular and ongoing feedback from our families and from all stakeholders regarding the various instructional models. As we've talked about, particularly during the last two meetings, improving on some of the strategies and things that we're trying during those asynchronous remote learning days. Administering the iReady assessment, and that's already started across grades K through 8, again, to ascertain where there may be gaps in learning due to the crisis. Also implementing the ST Math program, which is an online program that, again, kind of gets to deeper learning and more use of higher order thinking skills and synthesis and analysis in our youngest learners. Also, formation of a K through 8 math instructional materials review team. I know this is something that obviously Maureen is going to spearhead, with some budgetary implications, but some recommendations for some new materials that will be brought forward in the spring. We're also in the midst of trying to earn a grant to become part of the state's PBL Work School Leadership Network, a network of districts that are really trying to promote greater project-based learning across all grade levels. And then again, this in the same vein as the last goal, creating a guide to share with our professional staff around very pragmatic action steps for practices that promote deeper learning and project-based learning. Our third goal, again, is around communication, and very simply stated, to use effective strategies that ensure proactive, timely, and culturally responsive two-way communication among all stakeholders. So again, quickly, we've talked about the investment that our district has made in an app known as Remind that helps communicate effectively, through phone, through texting, and so on, with our families. So getting that up and running. I just shared with you the COVID-19 dashboard. Something that we haven't talked about a lot at the school committee level, but has become increasingly more and more important is the issue of translation. Particularly when we've been in situations of remote learning, it's really, really important to get the word out to our families. And we do have a growing population of multilingual learners, and consistently we're needing translation of district materials and district communications in Spanish, Portuguese, and Arabic. So ensuring that we've got consistent protocols and it's not just left to one teacher or it's haphazard in nature is one of our key action steps. We're also cognizant that there's been some technical issues at times with some of our families reporting that they're not getting some of our communications through ThrillShare, which is our mass calling and our mass calling and mass emailing platform. And we think some of it has to do with the way that some of our email addresses and our information is stored in PowerSchool. So we're looking to rectify that as soon as possible. Again, ongoing professional development in our two communication platforms, Seesaw and Google Classroom. And then something that we really, again, this is something that has been an action step for some time, and there's been some frustration, I know, internally on our leadership team, but kind of looking at our communication platforms and getting feedback of how we can streamline communications. We do have our main district and 4 school websites, but we also know that there's a lot of other platforms, Weebly websites and Schmore newsletters and so on. Is there a way that we can streamline them so that it is in one central location? So we'd like to conduct an audit to that end. And then our 4th goal, as I said before, is being explicit in embedding our Portrait of a Learner competencies into our practices and structures. Being very explicit about it. The high school has done some outstanding work in last school year in creating and developing I can statements that kind of speak to what does it actually look like to be, say, a global citizen, or to be any of the 6 Portrait of a Learner competencies. So creating those I can statements, say at every level, early elementary, older elementary, middle school, and so on, that are aligned with our 6 competencies. Dave Quinn is taking on, as he usually does, a lot of different activities that I think are very, very ambitious, but also have close alignment to the Portrait of a Learner. Specifically, he plans on doing a lot of work, as you can see from some of these action steps, around career exploration. And a lot of it is tied to the work that is ongoing through the middle school's Inspired Innovation Center. So as you can see there, furthering the implementation of Project Lead the Way for students at the middle school, and as his grant funding has called for, also exploration in Project Lead the Way pathways for growing it down to grades 3 and 4. Launch of some student interest surveys and also a profile database for our students, both at the middle school and the beginning of high school. I think Dave also has a vision of doing monthly online interviews it could be with professionals within our community or some of our national partners to spur interest in various careers. And the mindset is to be doing this on Wednesday afternoons. So our students, again, particularly at the middle school level and the high school level, but it could also be for elementary, could also take part in a Zoom session. I think Dave has also done some outstanding work to do different workshops for families in the evenings around computer science or robotics or career pathways. So the idea is to continue that work, and also, should it be necessary, obviously in this time, to continue that work in a virtual way. And then last but not least, again, clear connection to citizenship and our Portrait of a Learner is the implementation of the student-led civics action projects, which are also mandated by the state in both grades 8 and 11. And I think Maureen has presented on those in the past to all of you. So again, this is a streamlined version of what we would typically do, but we feel like this is the heart of the work that we will be doing. And it's the work that is necessary, not just for survival, but for us to continue to move forward and to thrive as a district. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Joe, I was just wondering, where did you streamline? Because there's still a lot on your plate here for this, for these action items.
Believe it or not, if you were to go back and look at some of what we've put forward in years past, it's been a lot more involved, Sean. You know, we've had, I looked last year, I think we had in the order of 7 goals, and that was streamlined. I think the first year coming off our strategic plan in 18-19, you know, it was ridiculous. We were overly ambitious. So yeah, 4 is still a decent amount, but I think as a district leadership team, we talked about what is the heart of the work that we really need to be doing, and what is the heart of the work of those first 3 principles that have guided our work through the pandemic. So still a lot there, but I think in talking to our leadership team in leading this work, there's a high degree of confidence that we will get these things done.
Yeah, good. I'm particularly curious about I don't know what types of things you can do out of the communication plan to reasonably get done this year. As you were saying, the action plan we can't even put any timelines or dates on some of those actions.
It really, you know, and again, I intentionally wanted this document not to kind of look like the traditional grid and, you know, the traditional action plan timeline. And again, it is super, super challenging. You know, I don't think it's necessarily hyperbole to say we're kind of going day to day. You know, a lot of times, as I said before, it's really, really difficult to even talk about what's going to be happening, you know, a week from today on December 14th. Yeah. So it's a real challenge, but I also think the importance is we need to plant a stake in the ground about what is important and what, you know, again, the strategic priorities of the district, you know, haven't gone away. Our district mission around we inspire all learners to thrive still is there. It isn't we inspire all learners to survive or to just hang on. And, you know, honestly, you know, intellectually and emotionally, I think we all have days where we're feeling like, oh my God, I'm hanging by a thread. I'm just surviving. But I think it's also important to, again, like I said, kind of plant our stake in the ground about what are our core values and what are our guiding principles that really drive the important work that we do with students and with families.
Understood.
So given that it is, even though it's streamlined, it's still an ambitious agenda. And I think a lot of the goals are spot on. But are you prioritizing certain goals within the goals? Since, like understood that there's not specific, this is going to be January, this is going to be March, this is going to be April, but like, how are you prioritizing within to make sure, because some of them, probably are going to be a little more critical to accomplish by the end of the year.
I think the key ones around social emotional learning, the ones around interventions, the ones around improving our practices vis-a-vis remote learning, particularly asynchronous remote learning, are real high priority.
Okay, good. Any other comments or questions from the committee before we'll need a motion to approve these? So.
Well, I would just say, I mean, we've kind of got to defer to you, Joe, and the staff to say what is a priority that you can get done. These are all a subset of what we've already approved in the past, correct?
They are closely aligned to what you've approved in the past with regard to the strategic plan. But I think a lot of these are very, very specific to our work for 2020, the 2020-2021 school year.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I would just add quickly, I think they're a great set of goals. Quite simply, I think you've put a lot of thought into them about how we take where we are today and kind of get us to the next level. I do agree that on the surface, it looks like a lot, but you're the ones, and I'm looking forward to the progress and seeing everything that's done. I think you've got a lot of momentum behind it. I think you've got a lot of good people that are helping out. So,
yeah, and I have to give credit where credit's due. That I give all the world of credit to our district leadership team, who really kind of, again, to use the more metaphor again, really planted the stake in the ground. And honestly, a lot of times they push me in my thinking and push me in my practice.
Yeah, I think right now I'm feeling frustrated that we can't accomplish what we had intended to accomplish.
Sure.
And when I'm thinking about all of the things that we had wanted to accomplish with respect to communication to the families, we can only do what we can do in this time. So yeah, I agree. This is about the best site you can get right now, but I can't wait to get out of this period of time so we can start accomplishing more.
Okay, so if there are no further comments or questions, can I get a motion to approve the district goals for 2020-2021 school year?
make a motion to approve the district goals for the 2020-2021 school year.
Second.
Vote by roll call.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Lee Martin, aye.
Phil DeSutter, aye.
Carrie Lawrence, aye.
Vicki Ludwigson, aye. The goals are approved unanimously. Next up, we have, yeah, I bring up my notes. A summary of the votes taken in executive session. This was on November 16th, 2020. So I'm going to read these, correct?
Correct.
Correct. All right. So these were the general terms of the two agreements that were voted upon 6-0 during the last executive session. Memorandum of agreement between the MURSD School Committee and the Mendon-Upton Regional Teachers Association, Association of Administrative Assistants and Custodians Association on remote and hybrid learning. This memorandum of agreement sets forth the health and safety provisions to be established during the current COVID-19 crisis, provides an option for educators in high-risk categories to teach, provide services remotely, establishes the schedules for full remote and hybrid models at the elementary, middle, and high school levels, provide structures for job functions beyond the school day, such as faculty meetings, open houses, and parent-teacher conferences. Establishes a joint labor management committee to deliberate upon substantive issues and study the change of instructional model using local and state transmission data. There's also a new collective bargaining between the MURSD School Committee and the Mendon-Upton Regional Teachers Association. This collective bargaining agreement is a one-year agreement for the period of July 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2021. Rolls over the provisions of the previous three-year contract that expired on June 30th, 2020. Provides a 0.5% cost of living adjustment at the start of the school year with an additional 1% COLA on the final day of the school year. And that's it. So I think that concludes new business, and we move on to community comments. Check the YouTube. So we have a few comments from Shelley Cook, who's asking why we're not meeting in person. So obviously we are somewhere in between 10 and 25 people generally, although space would be limited in the conference room at MISCO. So I'm not sure if others on the committee have thoughts or comments regarding this. Is this anyone?
I think all the town, I can see in Upton, pretty much all the town committees are meeting virtually. And so that's kind of the guidance that's been given. So I think we'll continue to do this until there is some, I'll call it break in the virus, or the vaccine is people are out there, or whatever you want to call it as it regards to that. We'll continue to follow the best practices laid out by the state.
I think we all want to have in-person meetings. I think we're in a period of time right now where the virus is having a second wave, as we can all see on the news. So we have to be respectful of everyone else in society, that we're following the rules that have been set up. Also, we want to accommodate as many people that can possibly come into those meetings freely as we can. So to have to restrict people from joining a meeting is not appropriate at all. So for those two reasons, I think we should remain remote until we have an abatement of the virus.
Agreed, thank you. So Shelley also asked, will we be considering the MCAS moratorium suspension that's been proposed by MASC? So I know we have discussed this previously. Is there a new
You actually, as a committee, voted on it back in October.
Right.
So it's already been considered and voted upon in the affirmative by you.
Okay, just checking to make sure there's no new development there. Thank you.
Nope.
And finally, it would be possible to offer town hall meetings with parents and staff as had been done in the spring. So that's really more a question for you, Joe.
Sure. Yeah, I can definitely plan for those on one Saturday morning. I have no problem doing that.
Question from Christine Horn about how will we physically keep students socially distanced if we bring in more elementary students? So, I mean, can you, I mean, I think you spoke about this a little bit in terms of.
I think the assumption would be, as an interim step, instead of bringing them all back, thinking of some other creative solutions, potentially something like half-day solutions. That's been one of the ideas that's been kicked around. So it's not necessarily, Chrissy, bringing all of the kids back all at once.
When asking why can't the whole class attend a full day Zoom if it's a snow day?
I think the mindset behind the decision-making has to do with, again, keeping both cohorts kind of even as far as the content that's covered. So the mindset would be, if you did everybody during the snow day, it would cause some disparities.
Someone asking about the results of the remote learners survey.
Yeah, I still have to, you know, the advantage of the doing a Google form survey is it's quick, it's easy, and so on. The disadvantage is tabulating them, particularly when you want to get into some disaggregations, is very time consuming. I'm in the process of working on that. I hope to get that out and published on our website by the conclusion of this week.
Okay, great. Where can parents provide feedback on district email communication? Certainly.
That is something that will be coming very, very soon. And we will be looking to, again, do a different type of surveying, most likely through tech surveying, doing some quick push-pull survey.
The results of the last parent survey be broken down by school so we can see the needs, concerns at a more detailed level?
Yes, hopefully before holiday break.
And were there any quick wins from the hybrid survey that are being implemented? Or I would even add on to that other, like maybe not so quick things that are being looked at.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest survey piece, that's actually a great question. And if you guys recall from our last meeting when we kind of went over those results, one of the biggest concerns was the asynchronous remote days. So as you could see from what we just discussed, one of our real emphases will be thinking of different solutions, of different strategies that could be used instructionally to improve those asynchronous learning days. So that really has informed, that feedback has informed a lot of our planning, a lot of our emphasis moving forward.
So I'm not seeing any other comments from the community. So moving on to correspondence. I think we have a couple of letters, correct?
Yeah, you've got the first one that I alluded to before regarding a very nice letter of thanks from the Upton Board of Selectmen regarding the work of our district learning adventure team. And then the second one, which I want to say we just received on Friday, is an acknowledgement of a consideration and processing of the special progress report from NIPMUC. And again, we still have that outstanding issue of the lack of a licensed library media specialist servicing the NIPMUC library. So again, as you can see, NIASC usually works very well with its member schools. And, obviously NIPMUC is a member in very, very strong standing. And I think there's also a realization of the pandemic. However, the issue of not having that position in place it is problematic with regard to the school effectively meeting all of the standards for accreditation. So as you can see in the letter, again, we have to respond, in the near future about the plans put in place for restoring that position. So I can tell you up front, as it was last year, that will be prioritization in the FY22 budget for the restoration of that position.
Great, thank you. Any other matters not anticipated by the committee within 48 hours of the posted meeting? Seeing none, future agenda items include the Binax rapid testing program and instructional model planning, both for January 11th. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Vote by roll call.
John Nicholson, aye.
Lee Martin, aye.
Phil DeZutter, aye.
Carrie Lawrence, aye.
Vicki Ludwigson, aye. We're adjourned at 8:12 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy
Good
holidays.
holidays.
Same.